Welcome to the Sports Investor Podcast, where it's all about smart sports betting. Here is your host, Professor MJ.
All good things must come to an end. After 4 straight weeks without a losing record, we went 1-3-1 last week. It was bound to happen eventually. Still 16-8-2 over the past 5 weeks, so no need to panic. Let's roll up our sleeves and get back on the winning track as soon as possible. I've got 2 picks for week number 8 in the NFL, and also a slight lean for the Raiders-Bills game, as well as the Thursday night game. So let me discuss these matches a little bit, but before I do that, let me say hi to those of you listening from a state where I've been several times since my brother lived over there for about 7 years in the past, the great state of Pennsylvania. Hi guys, and thanks for following me. Pick number 1. Detroit Lions plus 3 points against the Steelers. This is without a doubt my top play of the week, as my level of confidence takes a drop after that. The Steelers are coming off 2 very impressive wins at the Chiefs and against their arch rivals from Cincinnati. Le'Veon Bell looked almost unstoppable last week. Playing a non-conference road game against a weaker opponent after such a couple of emotional games is a big red flag to me. The Steelers may not come out very strong in Detroit, while the Lions desperately need a win sitting on their 3-3 record. You may have heard the following stat. Pittsburgh is 8-1 over the past 9 meetings with the Lions. But don't let that number mislead you, because the Steelers were actually 4-5 against the spread in those games. Another key factor in favor of Detroit is the fact they are coming off their bye week. They've had 2 full weeks to prepare for this matchup, while the Steelers were focusing on one of their worst enemies, the Bengals. Bad news for Lions fans though. Wide receiver Golden Tate is expected to miss the game. As a consequence, Marvin Jones, Eric Ebron, and Theo Riddick might see an increased workload. I'm also concerned about the status of free safety Glover Quinn, who suffered a concussion last week. His status is unknown at the moment, but it doesn't look good. At least the Lions might have left guard TJ Lang back from an injury, which is good news for Matthew Stafford, who's been sacked 23 times this season. Pick number 2. Panthers plus 2 points at Tampa Bay. Carolina was off to a great start to the 2017 season with a 4-1 record, including a stellar 33-30 win in New England. They looked like a dominant force again. And then they went on to lose 2 straight games. A 28-23 loss against the Eagles was acceptable, but a 17-3 setback in Chicago is inexcusable. The numbers from that game are mind-boggling. The Bears only attempted 7 passes and still won. Carolina dominated every statistical category. They made 20 first downs compared to only 5 for Chicago. Total yardage went 293 to 153 in favor of Carolina. I think it's an understatement to say that turnovers killed the Panthers, since both Chicago touchdowns were scored by rookie safety Eddie Jackson. If you had this guy in your fantasy league, congratulations! Meanwhile, the Bucs have not fared much better lately, dropping their 3 most recent matches. Their only 2 wins came against the Giants and the Bears, which is not spectacular. The Panthers will look to avenge a series sweep from last year, as they lost 17-14 at home and 17-16 in Tampa. Despite those 2 losses straight up, the Panthers are 6-2 against the spread over their past 8 meetings with the Bucs. The only thing I don't like so much about this game is how Carolina will be playing a 4th road game in their last 5 matches. That's a lot of traveling, and I'm hoping they won't be too tired. After missing last week's game in Chicago, 4-time Pro Bowler Luke Kuechly is on pace to return following a concussion he suffered earlier. Now, here are a couple of unofficial picks. Lean number 1, Buffalo Bills minus 2.5 points against the Raiders. Let's start with the factors favoring Buffalo. First, the Raiders will be traveling 3 time zones and playing an early 1 p.m. Eastern Time game, which is the equivalent of 10 a.m. on the West Coast. That's always a bit disruptive for teams coming from the West. Also, Oakland may not experience a high level of motivation following 2 key matchups against divisional opponents that both ended by a 1-point deficit. Indeed, they lost 17-16 to the Chargers before beating the Chiefs 31-30. Finally, the Bills will be looking for revenge after a 38-24 loss in Oakland last season. However, I'm not betting on Buffalo for a couple of reasons. Those who've been following me for a while know how much I value rest in the NFL, considering it is such a physical sport. The Raiders will benefit from 3 additional days of rest since they played last Thursday night. Also, the Raiders have beaten the spread on 5 straight occasions when facing Buffalo. They are 7-1 against the spread over the past 8 meetings. That's enough to get me worried and is one of the main reasons I'm staying away. I just thought I would let you know. Lean number 2, Ravens minus 3 points against the Dolphins. Whenever a team who has been playing pretty badly recently faces a team who is on the rise, the public tends to overreact and pound the latter. Under such circumstances, I will almost always go with the team who has been struggling, taking advantage of an inflated line. That may be the case here. The Dolphins have won 3 consecutive games, while the Ravens have dropped 4 of their last 5 matches. It's no surprise that more than 60% of the bets have gone on Miami, and I would not be surprised if the line goes from 3 to 2.5 before kickoff. Or maybe we'll get minus 3 points at plus 100 in American format, or 2.0 in decimal format. Here's an interesting stat with respect to this game. Over the last 7 meetings between these 2 teams, the Ravens are 6-1 straight up and 7-0 against the spread. Wow, that definitely grabs my attention. If the line improves, I may very well bet Baltimore in this one. That concludes episode number 14 of the Sports Investor Podcast. If you're thinking about opening an account with a new bookie, don't forget that my sportsbook reviews are there to help you make a well-informed decision. Simply go to my website, professormj.com, and click on Sportsbook Reviews in the header menu. I'm pretty sure you will find them to be very insightful. So, this is Professor MJ from Quebec City in Canada. I want to thank you one more time for listening, and I wish you good luck on your plays. Peace out.